Good afternoon, class. I'm going to go ahead and give y'all a pre-recorded video here um, for week 4. And we're going to talk a little bit about the next essay. And we will probably go in a little bit more detail. Whatever we don't cover, obviously, for this pre-recorded video, we will pick up again during our sort of our live weekly Teams meeting if you're able to join. If not, that video should also be recorded and uploaded to your Blackboard page. So what I'm looking at now is your lesson page on Blackboard. And if you look, there's a little folder up here. It says Finals Week. Make sure you have ProctorU account created before this week. I give you some information about how to go about doing that. So here's the deal. If whatever online course that you're taking, whether it's mine, whether you're taking multiple online courses, you have to sign up for a ProctorU account before you're able to, 1, take the exam, 2, complete the final exam. In this case, it's going to be the final exam. I say final exam because other courses may choose to do their proctor event as a midterm or some other kind of a assignment or event. Generally, online courses have to have one proctor event during their during that semester. So most folks usually do either the final, like I'm going to do, or the midterm. But again, if you're taking multiple online courses, you need to figure out, you need to get in touch with your instructor if they haven't been emailing you about this, about what they plan on doing for that ProctorU event. For me, it's going to be basically the final exam. And as it gets closer to December, because that's when you're going to take it, we will talk a little bit more about that. But the final, really what I want to do for the final exam is you're going to have a self-reflection or self-reflected essay that you're going to have to write. You're going to have to do it within 1 hour. You're going to have a camera on you while you're typing your essay. So if you do not have a webcam, you're going to have to either purchase a cheap one so you can do this ProctorU event, or you're going to have to come to a college, one of our sites that is closest to where you live. So if you live in Brunswick, then you're going to have to come to the Golden Owls campus. If you live in Camden, you're going to have to come to the Camden campus. If you live in Waycross, you're going to have to go to Waycross. So you're going to have a set of eyes. In this case, the camera is going to have to be on you to make sure you're not, cheating and that type of stuff. Because any slight movement, and it looks like that you could be possibly cheating, the camera will flag, right? The test actually will sort of shut down on you. So again, we will talk a little bit more about that as it gets closer. But I wanted everybody to know, because this is almost the middle of September. You could say the middle of September. Final exams will be here before you know it. And if you do not have an account created, you're not going to be able to get in and take your exam. Thus, your exam grade is going to be a 0, and nobody wants that, especially at the end right before Christmas, to wreck their grade and that be the thing that possibly hold you back where you're going to have to come back and repeat the class. We don't want that. That's why I'm going to go ahead and throw this deal out here. You can click on this. It's not going to pop up. The actual exam's not going to really pop up yet. But you're going to need the ProctorU account to be able to access the exam. And again, like I said, if you get other online courses, you're definitely going to need to have the ProctorU account for that. So I'm thinking once you create one, that should be it for all your online courses. I don't think you have to go in and create multiple ProctorU accounts. That just doesn't make sense to me. But you have to create one and be able to access it the day that you take your final exam. So again, if you have any questions about that, let me know. That's going to be more of a deal probably, I would say before we go on Thanksgiving break, definitely have your ProctorU account set up, ready to go. Because when we come back from Thanksgiving break, it's basically You got 1 week to do your research paper, basically 1, maybe 2 weeks, and then bam, you only have 2 days to get the final exam in, and then final grades are due. So after Thanksgiving break, you basically only have like 2 weeks left, and that's it. So I wouldn't wait until, you know, a day of or 2 days before the final exam. You want to do this sooner rather than later. So looking at week 4 folder, right? If you click on the week 4, you realize there's a lot of stuff here. And again, some of it we will get to today. Whatever we don't get to today, we'll get to on Wednesday. And a lot of this stuff deals with SA2. So, you know, in the next week or so, it's going to be sort of a combination that we're going to sort of continue talking about visual analysis of an advertisement, which is what SA2 is. So if you click on the SA2 folder or file, you have something that looks like this. Now, for most part, everybody could probably read through all of this. So I'm not going to necessarily read every single, you know, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I will sort of talk about what you're going to need to do. And what you're going to need to do is pick an advertisement of your choice that is compelling to you. And I'm going to show you how we're going to go about doing that, because I picked an ad that, you know, is going to work for me as it relates to my illustration of you how to complete your blog 5 or your exercise 5 assignment later this week. So you want to choose an ad that is compelling to you, that enrages, excites, or motivates you, will be easier to analyze. So you want to probably do, you could do like a Google image search. You can, you know, that would probably be the best and probably the easiest way to start off. You can find your ads in magazines, newspapers, internet, billboards. You can take a photo or, you know, get your ad somewhere else. To me, it just seems like it's easier just to go to Google image and type in advertisements. Now you can do advertisements by years, like 2020 or 1980 or, you know, 1845 if they had ads back then or not. That's one way that you can do it. The deal is with the ad is, since you're going to be writing and analyzing your particular ad, you're going to need to copy and paste your ad to your actual SA2 at some point. And, you know, probably next week I start showing you some example Model A SA2 examples, so you can sort of get a general idea of the structure and the format and how to go about doing the whole copy and pasting your picture. But I need to see the picture, and that's part of the reason why, if you look at one of the questions on your blogs this week, I say provide the ad or give me a working hyperlink so I can access the ad. Because otherwise, if I can't see an ad or if I can't click on your link, then whatever you're writing or typing probably doesn't really, I can't really, you know, give it credit. I can't judge it because I don't have a visual there to see. In a lot of ways, I can't see what you're seeing. So I need to be able to see your ad. I need to be able to look at the words that you're writing down to say, yeah, I can see where they're getting that from, right? I can see where this is coming from this particular ad. Without that picture, it's basically just a blank piece of paper because I don't have that visual image in front of me. This is actually going to be due on the 27th of September. So if you look at our dates here, we're the 14th. So the 27th is here. So you basically got all this week, all next week, and then Sunday. So the 27th will be here before you know it. That's why I would go ahead, you know, definitely by Saturday or Sunday, you're going to have a particular advertisement in mind to be able to do your blog for this week. But to be really able to get started drafting your paper, you're going to have an ad already in mind. So I would say probably by the end of this week, you need to have an ad, right? Friday, Saturday, you need an ad. Because if you look, this is sort of, you know, still the same format, MLA 8, double space, Times New Roman 12. It's due on the Sunday, the 27th. There's going to be a Blackboard Dropbox by midnight. And the paper length needs to be 3 to 5 pages or word count 750 to 1250 words. And you can kind of consider these questions. right? When you start writing your 3 to 5 page paper at this point. As you can tell, number 1, number 2, number 3, we talk a little bit more about these rhetorical appeals or strategies because there's a handout in your actual week 4 folder that we're going to look at. And number 4. So these could be good starter points. This could help you maybe start crafting an outline that you feel comfortable with and that you can work with. Actually, during the inside the week 4 folder, there's also sort of a structural outline of how your essay 2 should look like as it relates to what you need to have maybe in each one of your paragraphs. So again, this is the essay 2 instructions, and you need to pick an ad that you can analyze. And I would pick something that you can analyze that's definitely going to give you, you know, the minimum of 3 pages or 750 words. Don't pick an ad that you're going to come up short, because at this point, we need to start thinking about extending our sentences, our paragraphs, because again, when we get to the research paper stage, which is coming up soon, you're going to have to write a longer paper. There has to be more words in it. So that's the whole deal about practicing 3 to 5, 750 to 1250. So when we get to November, you can write a longer paper without any, major issues. All right. So if you look, the other thing I was going to talk about, if you turned in an essay 1, remember the Dropbox sort of got shifted. It was on the week 3, but it shifted to week 4. Hopefully everybody turned one in. If you sent a draft of essay 1 over the last 3.5 weeks or so, then you should have had something way before Friday and Saturday last. Especially if you email me your draft as a Microsoft Word attachment to my Coastal Pines email account. Now, if you emailed me something from a different account, chances are I probably didn't get it. So, like, let's say if you're using a Hotmail or a Gmail account and not using your actual Coastal Pines student email account, there's a lot of blocks and a lot of firewalls that this college puts up. So if you're not using your Coastal Pines student email account, chances are I may not be getting your work, or it may be a delay in getting your work. So that's why I would always use your Coastal Pines student email account when emailing me and when emailing me drafts. The other thing is be careful, because I think I've said this before in video and in email. You always want to send me rough drafts to my email account as attachments. If you try to send me your attachment to the Dropbox, it's going to force me to grade that rough draft as your final draft, which you probably don't want me to do. Because otherwise it is a little bit of a challenge, and it does become kind of a difficult situation to go back and delete some of those rough drafts that were in the Dropbox meant for the final draft. Because I could easily delete somebody else's final grade. I could delete one of your other final grades. And once that happens, it's really going to screw up people's grades and grade books. So please send me the rough drafts to my email account. The other thing is, everybody had 3.5 weeks to send drafts multiple times to Smart Thinking. If you didn't use Smart Thinking for essay 1, I would strongly suggest, again, it's optional, but I would strongly suggest that you use it for essay 2. I would strongly suggest, if you didn't send me a draft during essay 1, that you send me a draft for essay 2. As you can tell, we have visual analysis. You click there, it takes you to a link that talks a little bit more about how to go about dissecting an ad. We'll probably look at that maybe before this video ends. The structure of a visual analysis sort of gives you a generic or a general outline of how to structure essay 2. Your rhetorical appeals, we look at that. Those are really the 3 big logos, pathos, ethos that you would need to be able to be really successful with writing essay 2. As you can tell, really questions 11 through 13 deal with that with your blogs. So if we look at blog 5, sort of like the last 4, You just have to click up here, and of course, you'd have to create your thread or create your blog once you get in there. You're probably going to see the same sort of instructions and directions repeated again, just to keep you on track. But what you need to do is you're going to have an ad, and right here, this is due by this Sunday at 11:59. So really, by Sunday, you need to have the ad that you plan on using to write essay 2, because this particular blog has relation to your ad, which will also help you probably draft your essay 2. So if you look at some of these questions, again, there's 15. One of them, question number 14, is basically going to be, did you provide your image? Did you copy and paste your ad, or give me a works site, or give me a hyperlink that works? If you do not provide an image or give me a hyperlink that works, then that's 50% of your blog grade right there. So the highest you can make, if you get every other question right, would be a 50. So I need the ad. I can't stress that enough. I need your ad, I need your image, or I need a hyperlink at this point. If you're having a hard time on how to copy and paste stuff, we can work on that here in another week, coming weeks to come. But I definitely need a web link that works, because if I click on it and it says link not available or broken link, or basically if I can't see your ad, then you're out of 50. And you don't want that at this point either. Because as it relates to going back to essay 1, I should have a good bit of those graded. I hope by this time next week, if not sooner. Because if you looked at some of my emails the last week or so, there is a grade checkpoint coming up on Thursday. So throughout the semester, each one of your classes has 3 grade checkpoints. One is, about the time that we're having it now, this Thursday. The second one is going to be during midterm. And then the last checkpoint is basically going to be whatever your final grade is going to be. So this first one is sort of like a wake-up call, especially if you're not doing so well. So what I would strongly suggest, if you've got a D or lower in this class, or really any other class, because we're all going to have to submit grades, I would start doing a little bit of soul searching, meaning, are you 100% focused in that particular course or courses that you know that you could pull that D or lower up before the midterm? Now, midterm means it's week 8 of our semester, meaning you basically only have 8 more weeks left before the final semester, the final aspect of the semester, basically the final week. So if you get to week 8, which would be probably about the middle of October, and your grade really hasn't increased any, meaning you're still sort of at a D or really lower now, then I would really and strongly think about, depending on where, if you got a 25 in the class when you come to week 8, chances are you're not going to be able to pull that up the next 8 weeks to a C or higher. So what I would strongly suggest is, if you're really failing any course and it's really a lower grade, to think about possibly dropping that course and taking it again next semester. Because again, if you're on any kind of grants or financial aid, if you drop after a certain drop point in the semester, it's going to count against that money that you might have otherwise earned in the spring semester. And that's sort of the reason why we do these checkpoints, to give everybody sort of a, hey, this is how you're doing. Hey, you're not doing so good. Possibly you might need to drop and take this course again, say in the spring or say in the summer. There's benefits there's pros and cons about dropping. I mean, obviously, if there's a lot going on in your life, if you got a lot of other classes, you're dealing with kids, you got work, that type deal, then obviously you don't want to wreck your GPA. You want to keep your Hope Scholarship, you want to keep your Pell or whatever other grants coming. So that's why, you can withdraw before, the official drop date, where it's not going to count against you. Now, sort of the negative effect about withdrawing is, this is one of those classes that everybody has to sort of take. So it's going to put you back probably about 15 weeks, or you could say a semester, before you can graduate. And that's also going to sort of compound things depending on how many classes you have to drop. Because if you're having to drop a math class with this class, well, then, that's 2 extra classes you're going to have to take before you can graduate. And if you transferred anywhere else, right, if you went to a private college or a public college, English and math is sort of one of those what they call core requirements. You would have to take a sort of English or a math class no matter where you went, in-state, out-of-state, private college, public college, or online college. So it's usually better if you can pass these classes the first time around so you don't have to spend time or extra money the second time around. But we do offer we do offer English and we do offer math pretty much year round. So you can always, take it spring, take it summer, take it the next fall. But again, I'm hoping everybody can do well the first time around, so you can move on to, bigger and better things. All right. So just to throw that out there, to keep that in mind as it gets closer to this Thursday. And of course, midterm is not going to be too far away. If, basically 3 more weeks, we're at the 1st of October. I think the next time they want us to do the second grade checkpoint would be the week of midterm. The week of midterm begins on the 12th of October. So if you look, we're basically, 3-4 weeks away before that second checkpoint. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that week 4 has is your nouns and pronouns sheet. Again, if you've been looking at your pages in your e-text, pages 235 through 243, you'll find additional information about nouns and pronouns. There is a grammar practice sheet here you want to download and submit your answers by 11:59 this Wednesday. Again, these 10 questions are going to be similar to your actual grammar quiz 2, which will be coming up in another week or so. So everybody that submitted quiz 1 should already receive the grade. And the grades were sort of up and down and all over the place. So don't overthink the quizzes, because really you don't have to rewrite all the sentences. I had a couple people just wanted to rewrite all the sentences, and that was just sort of a waste of time on your part, because when you rewrote it, you basically rewrote it into a way that it made it even worse for you as it relates to grade-wise, because you only needed to change a word or put a comma here. So be careful about overthinking these, and definitely, use the study guides, use these practices as your study guides, and read the e-text, pages 235 to 243, so we can pull up your quiz 2 grade. So let's look at the blog exercise a little bit more in detail, because I'm going to show you how I did mine, and then I want, basically you to sort of mimic mine as it relates to your ad and to your questions. If you look here, and this is the particular ad I chose, right? It says smoking isn't just suicide, it's murder. So as you can tell, there's this, looks like a young boy. He's probably grade school wise. You could say maybe, 1st or 2nd grade, could be a little bit younger. As you can tell, without me really blowing this too much, you see that the kid looks like has a bag over his face. Well, he does. It's a bag of secondhand smoke. As you can tell, we have sort of the black and white going on, black in the background. We have white lettering. Notice the title, Smoking Isn't Just Suicide, it's murder again. Because again, if you look at how this is displayed, the person smoking obviously is sort of the one committing the suicide here. And the person being murdered also in this case could be this young child, because of the effects and impacts of secondhand smoking. So this is what you want to do, right? The first thing I need to see is going to be your image, your ad. I need to see what you're trying to use. The other thing is, and we'll probably have to talk about this a little bit more, because I'm pretty sure everybody's going to, kind of get this messed up at first. And that's fine, because again, we have a couple weeks to modify some of this. But you're gonna want to give me a citation, right? What you're using, where you're getting it from, that type deal. Here I did sort of a footnote. That's generally how they want you to set stuff up. But because unless you took the picture and the picture really belongs to you, you're borrowing or you're collecting images off of Google Images or some other site that you didn't paint, you didn't write, you didn't create. So you have to give credit to that particular author or artist of that ad. Otherwise, you're guilty of plagiarism, which is not a good thing to get either, because going back to the syllabus and some of the rules, right? If the first offense of plagiarism is a 0 on the assignment, the second offense is you failed the class. So make sure that you're giving proper credit to your particular ad. And again, if you need help with that, I can show you how to go about doing that. Maybe we can look at it a little bit more on Wednesday. There are really some cool and easy and free citation places online. EasyBib is one. Son of Citation Machine is another. But again, if you put like, how to cite an ad or how to cite a picture, you could probably come up with a whole bunch of different other websites to look at. You can probably even type it into YouTube and watch a video there of how to do it. So these are my questions with my answers. Now, you don't necessarily have to give me the question and the answer like I did here. You can just put one in your answer, but I just wanted to show you the difference. If you like the way I did it here and that's easier for you, then you can just sort of mimic what I have. But I just wanted to show you how I went about doing this particular assignment. I look at number one, right? What specifically is the product being advertised? Well, again, it goes back to your ad. And my answer is smoking is not just suicide, it's murder, which is basically the main message. That's what sort of this ad is advertising. It's saying if you smoke, then not only are you going to possibly kill yourself over time, but you're also going to be killing those around you, which could be children, which could be family, other family members, other friends. It could be animals. Animals can also die from secondhand smoke too. Some folks don't realize. Who seems to be the primary intended audience for this ad? So again, looking at this ad, it could be, like I said here, individuals who smoke, parents or strangers, it doesn't really matter, and people who know others that commit this act, smoking around children. So again, anybody that smokes is basically, sort of wrapped up into this. So parents, grandparents, teenagers, complete strangers, right, is sort of wrapped up in this particular ad, because secondhand smoke just doesn't come from, your parents. It comes from anybody that smokes a cigarette or cigar or whatever the case may be. Number three, in what kind of publication or publications do you think this ad would be most likely to appear? Well, I say one would see this ad on posters in magazines or on social media. And depending on where you're getting your ad, you could probably sort of have similar answer there. Unless you just have sort of a specialty or a rare ad. But anytime that you go on the Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you're always bombarded with various ads, whether you want them there or not. They're always there. Online newspapers, right, or print newspapers, they have ads there. I mean, YouTube, unless you pay the fee to block the ads or whatever. Hulu, unless you pay the fee to block the ads, you're going to have ads that pop up. So just think about that. And again, they could vary a little bit depending on what you choose as your ad, but more than likely your ad is going to appear in one of these sort of publications. It could be a newspaper. It could be, social media. It could be YouTube, right? It could be, television shows. When you look, watch something, let's say on TNT or TBS or whatever, you have at least 2 or 3 minutes of ads throughout that particular program that you're watching. So it could be as easy as a television ad too. Number four, what is the primary purpose of this ad? And of course, there I say the purpose of the advertisement was to convey the notion that smoking not only harms the actual smoker, but others around him or her. Passive smoking. This is represented through the cloudy smoke surrounding the child in their advertisement. So again, if you look at how I'm structuring some of these answers, they're not really long, right? Number one has, basically two sentences. Number two has one sentence. Number three, one sentence. Number four has, it's getting a little lengthy, but it's two sentences. So you don't really, 1 to 2 to 3 sentences probably will be suffice for most of these. You probably don't need to go beyond 3 sentences unless you just want to. But most of mine have been 1 or 2 sentences, and that's fine. Because again, you're going to be able to use, I hope, some of these answers to start crafting and developing some of your paragraphs, thinking about, doing a lot of your pre-writing activities and outlining like we did for essay 1. You don't necessarily have to give me what pre-writing activity you're going to do or an outline, but I would suggest that you sort of do those things on your own since you now learn how to do them. Because otherwise, if you don't have some sort of a direction or a blueprint or a guide to follow with this, then essay 2 is definitely going to be a lot harder and a lot challenging than the first one, which is not what we want. But again, that's why you want to sort of use these questions to help you start developing your drafts. If you look at question number 5, does this ad rely primarily on text, visuals, or on a balance of the two to achieve its purpose? And my answer is this ad uses a balance of text and visual. I think it does more of visual than text, but there is some text there with the actual title. For the campaign was extremely effective because it was so confrontational. And again, it's the children, it's the child, it's the bag of smoke, it's the smoker. Moreover, the campaign evokes emotions like sadness, guilt, anger, and even sympathy, especially the image of a young child who is being suffocated by secondhand smoke. So again, if you go back, this is not really a bag, but it's kind of, the image is of a bag, but it's the smoke that sort of makes that image. So it's just like putting a bag over your child's face, right? Or if putting a bag over your own face. Anybody that's had a bag over their face, makes it hard to breathe, no matter how old you are, how young you are, what your race is, what your gender is. If you can't breathe, then, life is basically getting sucked out of you. And that's really what the message is here. Secondhand smoke causes that suffocation. It's like that bag over the head, bag over the face where you can't breathe through your nose or you can't use your lungs and breathe through your mouth, that type deal. If you look at number 6, what claims does the ad make for the product being advertised? Well, if you look, really, it's sort of the main claim that we've been talking about. Secondhand smoke is just as deadly as firsthand smoke, and it can cause just as much damage to someone's health, no matter the gender, age, race, etc. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're smoking, you're not only causing yourself damage because you're breathing that stuff in, but anybody that breathes it in around you is also getting some of the damage too. So that's sort of what the claim of this ad is really trying to get across. Where does your eye go first? Now, again, when we think of ads, a lot of it deals with, again, going back to our description essay, with our narration, one of your 5 senses. And one of your 5 senses is usually your sight. That's probably one of the more, most of the senses that we use, because we're always visual. We always look at something, whether it's, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's social media, whether it's in a book, whether it's driving down a highway looking at a billboard, whether it's a picture on our cell phone or a text on our cell phone. If you're able to see and you got 2 eyes, a lot of things in our world is visual. And then you could say, well, and then it goes probably to, touch, smell, taste, and hear. But a lot of things that we do is visual. And especially when looking or trying to read an ad, you're going to be using your eyes. So in this case, it says, how do you view the ad? Top to bottom, left to right, inside to outside, etc. So going back to number 7 and number 8, they basically deal with sight. So my eye for number 7, basically it surrounds that bag of smoke suffocating the young child. I mean, that's what you usually see. That's what I'm seeing first. And then you get to see the sort of the pain and anguish of the child trying to grasp for air or crying for air. And then when we look at number 8, when I look at the ad, I kind of look at it because it is sort of, it's lengthy, you know, it's more of a rectangle here. I see a lot of the black more than I do the white. But you do sort of look top to bottom because you do see a child here. The child definitely is suffering in this particular environment. And you can also look left from right. So you're sort of looking at the big picture here. Now, depending on the, you know, your ad size and that type deal, you may not be able to do top to bottom, left to right like I am. And that's fine. You just want to let me know, you know, which one, because again, it's going to be your eye, not mine. And you're sort of persuading me in the fact that, hey, yours goes from top to bottom instead of, you know, left from right, or yours goes from right to left instead of from left to right. So you're going to have to sort of persuade me of that. And that's why you need the picture, you need your ad with this particular assignment so I can see it, right? Again, going back to sight, we need to be able to look, we be able to observe what particular ad that you chose and what's going on in it. If you look at number 9, what is the main image? If there are smaller images, what are they? My main image, of course, is the young boy who is being suffocated by a bag of secondhand smoke. Now, you could say the smaller images could be, you know, it could be the outline of the bag with the smoke, but I think that sort of collectively, it's all around, it's all centered around this boy. He's the main image. And, you know, you could say this is, you know, smaller image or a secondary image with the smoke. But it's definitely this face. You know, it's not really, they probably could have just, you know, airbrushed out the shirt and stuff, didn't really need that, just had the face, and that would probably be enough to tell the story of what they're wanting to get across in this ad. If you look, number 10, what colors do you see? What associations do you have with these colors? And of course, I give you some examples: happy, businesslike, childlike, earthy, soothing, energetic, patriotic. My primary color in this particular ad that I chose is obviously black or a darker color, which again sort of depicts the sadness, depicts the guilt, depicts the anger, depicts the sympathy, and possibly death of not only the child, but it could be of the parent or the grandparent or the stranger or the brother or the sister, whoever's doing the smoking, right? So look at color and color schemes. One thing that you can do about colors, if you're trying to figure out what does this color really represent, the best thing I would suggest maybe you do is go to like Google and type in color symbolism. Now, you may have to search a couple of these sites to really start, you know, finding the one that's going to work. But if you look here, this might be pretty good for our illustration. You click on it, and let's see if it's going to work. This internet's not been the greatest here lately. Let me go back. Let's see, color meaning and symbolism. So here it has various different colors. So I'm just going to put in, let's see, black. So that's the one I'm mainly using. Okay. Well, it's saying it's blocked, so it doesn't want me to do anything. Let me see here. Let's see, color matters. I don't know why some of this stuff is not wanting to pop up on my end, but you can see what I'm doing. And that might be the easiest way to do it. It could be some of our pop-up blockers and stuff. Here's one that you can possibly look at. Let me see if I can maybe bring this up. Let's see. So going to Google Images for this could be helpful too. But if you can tell here, this is just one of many. They give you different, black could be danger, could be uncertainty, could be distrust. So if you think danger, yes, the secondhand smoke is dangerous to the child, dangerous to whoever's doing the smoking as well, and anybody else that's around that area. Distrust, right? If you're a parent, and again, this is not knocking anybody that smokes, right? I mean, that's your business if you smoke. This is just an exercise, and you can do it with basically any ad that you choose. Usually the controversial ads lend themselves to a better paper, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to give me the 3 to 5 pages. Because I've been around, I was a child that was around a lot of smoking growing up, right? My mom was a really bad chain smoker. And unfortunately, she actually lost her life to cancer because of it. So that might be kind of one of the reasons why I particularly chose this, because had she gave up the habit a lot sooner, she could, still be here today. But it is an addiction, and it is hard to stop. She had stopped, in the past before, but she could really never fully kick the habit. And I'm sure we got folks out there that are friends or family that are sort of in the same boat. They've been doing it all their lives. They stop for a little bit, and then something triggers or makes them stressed out, so they pick it back up again, and then they take off. So, let me throw that out there. I'm not trying to pick on anybody for, if you're smoking or you're a smoker. It's just this makes it a little easier for me to show you how to go about doing this particular essay assignment. But going back to our little color wheel, as you can tell, red means sin, evil, anger. Orange, unease, danger. Yellow, cheerfulness, joy. Green, decay, envy, disgust, wealth. Blue, wisdom, sophistication, comfort. Purple, royalty, decadence. White, purity. And again, this is just one of many. Pink, innocent, romance. That you could probably find on Google that would help you out maybe with that particular question if you needed help with it. Going back, and we're going to come back to those here, those appeals here in a minute. Because if you look really at our last 3 questions, they deal with the logos, which is more of a logical appeal. They deal with pathos, which is more the emotional appeal. They deal with ethos, which is more the ethical appeal. So going back to that handout, because you're not going to find this really, you may have a couple places in your book that deal with these rhetorical strategies or appeals. But I didn't see any good indication in your book that has, that details it like I do here. And again, when I think of logos, going back, this is really like Greek rhetorical analysis. Roman and Greek rhetorical analysis. So if you look at logos, it means logic, the use of logic, rationality, critical reason to persuade, right? Logos appeals to the mind. Logos seeks to persuade the reader intellectually. So, and these are some of those examples of logos, right? So this is something you might want to kind of keep in mind when you choose your ad or you start analyzing your ad for the draft, when you start analyzing your ad for these particular 13 or 14 questions with your blog. Pathos equals emotion, the use of emotion and effect to persuade. Pathos appeals to the heart and to one's emotion. Pathos seeks to persuade the reader emotionally. So again, I give you some examples here of what things to look for. And also, you can kind of combine and, if you want, when you start drafting essay 1, start looking at a couple of these and start combining those into like paragraphs. 2 or 3 will make up a logos paragraph. Two or three might make up a pathos paragraph. Two or three might make up an ethos paragraph. So again, going back to your linkage, right? You need to get 3 to 5 pages now. Those 5 paragraph essays are going to be sort of slowly coming in. So in this particular paper, you may have to do 7 or 8 paragraphs just to get 3 to 5 pages or more, depending on how much you have to say and what you have to say, depending on your ad, right? Ethos, ethics, and credibility, right? The ongoing establishment of a writer's or speaker's authority, credibility, and believability as he or she speaks or writes. Ethos appeals to ethics and character. Ethos seeks to persuade the reader that the writer and speaker can be trusted and believed due to his or her noble character or ethical ways in which he or she is presenting ideas. And again, there's a couple more. There's additional examples here of ethos, but you can use this in daily life, right? Just because the Greeks and the Romans used it way before any of us were born, you can use logos, you can use pathos, you can use ethos. Obviously, if we're having to do it to ads, you can do it to, let's say, political campaigns, right? That could be sort of a hint, right? If you're having a hard time picking a particular ad, think of, about the political atmosphere that's going on. Look at political ads. You have to, these politicians have to be able to persuade readers and listeners and voters based on logos, which is logic, based on pathos, which is emotion, and based on ethos, which is our ethics and credibility, right? No matter which side you're on, conservative, Republican, Democrat, liberal, you have to be able to reach the masses, and you use these techniques to reach your masses. Otherwise, if you're not able to appeal to somebody's logical or critical reasoning to persuade, or somebody's emotional appeal, or somebody's ethics, you're not going to get them to come to vote for you. Because they have to come vote for you more than just a campaign slogan and a fancy, headline, right? Especially if it's going to be somebody in office that has to be there for 4 years or 2 years or whatever the case may be. But advertising, right? That's why using this for advertising is a little easier, because we see advertising on a day-to-day basis. We grew up with it. We might have grown up with it a little bit more in print. Some of us might have grown up a little bit more of it, online, but it's around us. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Think of truck and car ads, right? Think of Burger King and McDonald's ads. Everything that sells a particular product has an ad out there, and it usually goes by trying to persuade the purchaser or the buyer or the reader or the writer. They usually go with this: logos, pathos, and ethos. You kind of have to have all 3 to be able to, be successful, to be able to sell that product, to be able to get money coming in from that product, or getting votes from the mass of people that's voting for you. I mean, if you think about the homecoming queen and the homecoming king, a lot of times, even though they may not think they were doing it, they still had a sort of appeal on students' logic, students' emotion, students' ethics, right? Because your good looks will only go so far in life, right? You have to have a little bit more than good looks, because like good looks, eventually they do fade, right? It's like a flower; it will fade. So you have to use the logical appeal, the emotional appeal, the ethical appeal, to get people to come vote for you, to like you, to support you, to, so on and so forth. So that's why it's good to be able to do these things when you look at SA2, because you can expand this stuff into your own real life way beyond this class. And it gives you a chance to be a really sophisticated person moving forth, meaning maybe you'll be able to think through things a little bit better before buying that new vehicle, just because, it's red and it looks pretty cool. But when you get it, the red and the feel pretty cool eventually goes away when you got to pay a $500 card note at the end of the month. Because you want to be smart about what you buy these days. You want to be smart about who you vote for these days, because once you get it, you're sort of stuck with it for a while. So if you go back to these last three questions, right? What is the logos or logical appeal of your advertisement? I say for mine, the logical appeal is that everyone knows that secondhand smoke can hurt non-smokers. And this just gives them credible sources of approval. So again, this is coming from an actual Chilean anti-smoking website. So we do have a credible source there. And anytime, you can look it up too. There's doctors have already sort of approved that secondhand smoke is not good for anybody. So it's not something that could be considered fake news. That's sort of the buzz term out there these days. We know from people that smoke and that are around people that smoke that you can have serious health issues. You can develop cancer, you can develop tumors, you can develop, asthma, you can have breathing problems. So this stuff is, it's research, doctors' research, it's provable. What is the pathos of the emotional appeal of your advertisement? Pathological appeal of this image is that children who are being harmed or even killed appeals to everyone's emotions. And that's usually true. I mean, you can link children up with animals in a lot of ways. Because when you think about some of these late night infomercials or commercials, you're going to have this person that says, for, I don't know, $1.45 a day, you can feed this family, you can feed this child in Africa. You see a lot of those going on. Or for $2 a day, you can feed this cat or give this dog a warm, sheltering home. You've probably seen those lately. Anything that's dealing with kids or animals usually pulls on our heartstrings a lot more. And that's why that's why this ad is more effective with the kid instead of the adult who's smoking. Because with kids, we seem to rally around like we need to save our children. We need to keep the kid alive. Whoever's, causing harm to the child, is a bad person, that type deal. Same thing with animals, like I said. That's why with a lot of these advertisements, as it deals with health, you may see a lot of animals or a lot of children involved because they really want to grab at your heartstrings, right? They want to make you donate the money or come to your senses about, man, for the last 15 years, I've been smoking around Joey, and here I am 55, and I know I'm not going to live forever. My lungs are screwed up, but Joey, who's turning 13, how many years have I screwed up his lungs? That type of thinking. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at your ad, that you're looking for the emotional appeal or the pathos. I also stated it also appeals to parents because they do not want the image what it would be like to lose their own children, which is true. I don't think most parents that go out there and smoke are intentionally wanting to spread their secondhand smoke. I mean, it has to go somewhere. You can't forever keep it in your lungs. So you have to, spread it out. In this case, a lot of folks who smoke inside, obviously it goes throughout the house. If you smoke in a car, obviously it goes in in your car unless you start rolling down the windows. I know in recent years, I think they've actually made it, somebody can get a ticket for having a closed window up and somebody smoking in the car. But again, even when you're, opening that window, you're still letting it out. So the people behind you, even if you're driving away, it's still out and, into the atmosphere and stuff. So somebody's getting it, right? If it's not the child in the back seat, you're definitely getting it, but it's somebody, to the side of you, behind you, somebody's getting that secondhand smoke. If you look, number 13 really is our last question here. It says, what is the ethos, ethical appeal of your advertisement? So the ethological appeal of this image is ethics deal greatly with caring about people, since knowing the harmful effects of secondhand smoke will usually influence someone to try to save one's life. Which is true. I mean, that's the ethics, that's the credibility of the truth. Um, Again, going back, most parents don't, start out saying, well, I'm just going to, smoke for the sake of smoking, but I also want to take out my child or everybody around me. They usually don't. They don't even really think that in that notion, because they're so caught up in their addiction that it's just second nature, right? If I'm going to go out and have a cigarette, they don't care about really who's around them, as it relates to that. Now they do care as people, but they just don't look at it as saying, well, I'm the one with a cigarette. I'm the one breathing it into my lungs. It's not going to hurt somebody that's breathing it through their nostrils. They don't always see, the same correlation there. But doctors have said there is a correlation there, and people do get serious health concerns or issues because of secondhand smoke. So, in a nutshell, that's what you need to do for this Sunday. But if you take each one of these questions after Sunday, you could start this, think about possibly providing maybe longer answers to, get some paragraphs here. So if you really wanted to sort of look at this, you had an opportunity, possibly you could have 13 paragraphs. Of course, you'd probably have to maybe combine a few or cut a few off or space them in a certain location in your paper. But in some ways, if you're able to extend your answers on these starting next week and start shaping, coming up with an outline, some of these questions right here would be really good body paragraphs that you could put in your paper without, because you already have your image, you already have your ad. You wouldn't have to really do too much, but just sort of add on to it and then structure it and organize it to a way that fits the way that you want your paper to go. And that's where the outline is going to come into play. You need to have a decent outline. Obviously, you probably want to have at least 3 paragraphs, one dealing with logos, pathos, and ethos when it deals with the big paper, right? SA2. Those would be, you could have like an introduction. You can talk about logos. You can move on to pathos. You can move on to ethos. And then if you wanted to pick up a couple more, right, you could talk about maybe color symbolism, or maybe you can kind of look at, some of this stuff, the visual aid of it. So you have a couple ways that you can, manipulate this to go ahead and start drafting your paper. And really, I mean, once you probably fill this out and turn it in and have maybe a tentative outline, right? Of course, you need a thesis statement. Again, the thesis statement is going to be that last sentence of the introduction paragraph. I could say, easily, probably by this time next week, starting Monday, the 21st, you probably need to go ahead and start drafting. Now, you could probably start drafting sooner than that, depending on how long and how fast you can get the blog done. But if you're waiting until Sunday to do everything, then definitely by the 21st, you need to go ahead and start drafting, because the 27th is definitely going to be 6 days away from that, and that's when it's due. I would say probably the last time I can look at rough drafts would be, by midnight, Saturday, September 26th. So if you want to start sending me drafts, you can start sending me drafts at pretty much any time. I mean, granted, keep in mind, I got this class is SA1 to grade, and I got 3 or 4 other classes that I have to grade as far as essays and quizzes and stuff. So I will get to it as soon as I can, but I also need to stay committed to getting my grades in, so everybody has an up-to-date grade checkpoint on Thursday as well. So it may be later in the week before I really start looking at SA2 drafts. But again, you have smart thinking, right? You don't necessarily have to wait for me to start looking at your paper. You can always send it to smart thinking and, have them look at a couple drafts before sending something to me. that actually might be beneficial, especially if it's going to take me a couple of days to get back to you because of my current situation. Okay, let's see. Talked about that. Here's again, this is one of the handouts. This could be, it sort of gives you a general handout about how to go about analyzing an ad. You may have more information here than you really care to know or want to know, but this may be helpful not only to get you to start answering some of the questions on the blog. This would definitely be helpful when it comes to maybe outlining your paper, sort of kind of keep you in focus. So again, you can find out on week 4. This is sort of that sample outline template that you might want to sort of have or manipulate as it relates to, talks about your thesis. You can sort of go a little bit with this if you like. Gives you some examples. Again, in another week or so, I'm going to give you that sample model paper. That's going to, give you something a little bit more to chew on. But this sort of gives you the idea of how many paragraphs possibly. You're looking at here maybe at least 7 paragraphs, maybe more, for this particular paper to get your 3 to 5 pages. So if you were going to start off, I mean, this would be sort of a good general, sort of template or outline to follow. But think of it now, at least 7 paragraphs or more to be able to get a really good 3 to 5 page paper. This is sort of what ProctorU looks like. I mean, on your end, it's probably going to be a little different. But once you get in, it's probably going to, there's going to be tests. There's going to be stuff there. It's going to show you where to go. Hopefully, it's going to tell you what you need to do. But you definitely, like I said, you're going to need to sign up, because without your username and without your password, and it's different, right? You're not, I don't think you're actually going to be able to just go in there and put your Coastal Ponds username and password in and automatically set up. You're going to have to go back and look at some of those hyperlinks that I sent out in that particular section above week 4. And there's also, if you look, this is the main Blackboard page. If you scroll down to the very end where it says ProctorU guide, student tips, and frequent asked questions, you probably want to look at that first before you go to doing this first. Because you're going to have to download the browser extension. You're going to have this little owl. If you look up here, if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to get on. So again, we have a couple weeks, right? Really, we have the rest of September, all of October, a good bit of November. But I would say to, avoid any major problems, to have it set up and ready to go before we go on Thanksgiving break, sort of that middle part of November. Because otherwise, we come back. I mean, if you can't get in there to take a test, oh well. I mean, a 0 on the final, depending on what your grade is, could fail you. You could fail the class for having that 0 on the final. We don't want that. So just make sure that you get that set up. Double check your other online classes, because their ProctorU event may be coming up in 3 weeks from now. And you don't want to be caught off guard on that because you didn't know. They should be sending stuff out. But again, it should be there like I was showing you. This right here should be there for everybody to see that's on Blackboard. And you can print it out and download it, whatever the case may be. But I would probably read this first and then go back through the lesson page and look at the stuff I have in there about ProctorU. All right, so going back to the week 4, I think what we're going to do, because we already covered the blog 5, we looked at the appeals, we sort of looked at the visual analysis, the structure of the visual analysis, we looked at the actual essay 2 topic. I think for Wednesday, we're just going to focus a little bit more just on the nouns and pronouns, sort of the grammar aspect of the course. And then if you have any other questions about blog 5 or essay 2, those that actually join us on Wednesday, sort of leave that as an open forum where you can ask that. Otherwise, you will have a video sometime at the, later in the day on Wednesday that you can watch. And it'll just be up to you to finish up the grammar practice and, start thinking about SAT and finishing up the blog for this Sunday. I hope everybody has a good Monday and Tuesday, and I hope to see everybody who can make it on Wednesday. I will send out invites. If not today, definitely tomorrow. So you should be receiving something via Teams sometime soon. As always, you can email me, and I look forward to looking at some of y'all's essays. I have already graded some of them, I think, so you can go and double check to see where your grade is for Blackboard at this point. For others, like I said, you should have it, I hope, by next Monday, if not sooner. Y'all have a good day.